Alright, dude. So, Trail Magic Freaks, eat your heart out, dude. This is a car antenna with a fork on it. Cool. Okay, here we are in the redwoods. Okay. Alright, so we got the Frybake pan here with the lid. This is the Nols lid. Alright, this is not a lid. This is a twiggy fire stove. You put this on top, and you see where it says Frybake? You put these twigs on there, and you put a fire on here. Okay, so the idea is that you cook it once from below, like a frying pan, and then you cook it once on top as an oven. To really get glamping, to do glamorous camping and cook cakes and all kinds of things, pot roast or whatever. I just brought it home from the post office. You can see it already has a scratch, and that is from the lid. So I just, put the scratch on there. All right, so it's not as durable as a regular old GSI Bugaboo, but it is lighter. Okay, it doesn't have a handle. Obviously, that's a problem. It is not easy to cook with small utensils on a small flame that's hot, that can burn your hand, especially without a handle. When you first put your food onto your stove, you've got to get it perfect, because you've got because once you put it on there, it starts to get hot, and then you can't reach in there again. So it does take some practice. Let's get started. Okay, so I got a big piece of chicken here with some water, and I got my fire. I'm gonna put it on there, and I'm gonna try to get it right. This is really when it matters, is in the beginning. Getting that thing perfect on there. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna put on the lid. Okay, the lid kind of fits on there. And in a minute here, I'm not gonna be able to touch it anymore, so I'm gonna make sure it's, I'm gonna make sure it's really on there good. Okay, so that looks good to me, like a little UFO. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it until that solid fuel cube burns out, and then I'm gonna put a little twiggy fire on top of the pan and cook it again. All right, so since the Frybake does sit on the pot pretty steady, and my chicken is kind of frozen, I decided to just start baking it right away. It wasn't really easy to put a twiggy fire on top of this thing. It is a small space. Only really little tiny sticks are gonna fit on there. I had a solid fuel cube that I could put on there. But yeah, that's a little tiny fire, But supposedly it's gonna raise the temperature of this frying pan substantially. And it's gonna get real hot in there. Hot enough to cook even, anything. A frozen piece of chicken or whatever. It's a Frybake. It turns into a Dutch oven and it bakes it. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. Here we go. Alright, so my twiggy fire is really starting to take off here. It's fun, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, it's a little tiny fire. Supposedly it's cooking up my food. I don't know, only time will tell. I'm gonna give it a shot. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this lid is gonna be dirty, from burning on it. And you're gonna have to put that in your pack. It isn't really, really small. As you can see, this the S-bit underneath it is a lot smaller than the Nols Frybake lid on top of the frying pan. Also, it's pretty evident that if your twiggy fire doesn't fall off of the top of the Frybake, that's mostly due to luck. You gotta kind of sit there and watch this thing. You gotta enjoy making little campfires, and you gotta stick around and make sure that this thing doesn't start a fire, obviously. And it is kind of like the size of a Frisbee, and it's dirty, so you gotta be able to wash it off, or you gotta have some kind of case to put it in. It is light. It is lighter than a normal GSI Bugaboo frying pan, but I think that the Evernew Titanium is lighter than this, and it's about the same price. So without the lid, the Evernew is like the same price as the Nols with the lid. So the Frybake with the lid is about 65 bucks. The ever new titanium is probably about 50 bucks. The titanium is going to get cool really quick, so like maybe like a minute after you're done cooking, you can put it in your lap and use it as a plate. But titanium has a tendency to only get hot in one spot and burn food. The aluminum that the Frybake uses supposedly is one of the better metals for traveling with a frying pan. It is slightly lighter than your regular old stainless steel heavy-duty frying pan from GSI, like the GSI Bugaboo is a little heavier. But it doesn't have a handle. It is really stable. It is easier to cook with a frying pan than with a little pot. Little pots have a tendency to be difficult to balance on your stove. Frying pans are pretty easy to balance on your stove. So having a handle on your frying pan isn't really as big a deal as having a handle on your mug. But you know, like right now, this is hot. There's no way to reach in there and mess with this fire right now. You got to be patient and wait for the fire to kind of die down, or pour water on it or something. I've got this glove. This is like a fireproof barbecue glove from some barbecue show. I bought it off of Amazon and it works pretty well. So as the twiggy fire kind of falls apart, you can see that the twigs get caught on the side there. So they kind of fall away from the flame and they get caught kind of in this ashtray kind of shape. They kind of just sit on the side rather than falling on the ground. It's pretty cool. Okay, so this is the result, okay? Obviously the lid, this is a stove, okay, and it gets dirty, just like a stove gets dirty. So you end up with that to put in your pack. Now that's from the solid fuel cube. If you only use a twiggy fire, you know, the mess is a little bit less, but still it's messy, okay? And then inside, we've got some chicken that kind of looks like chicken soup. It's still a little bit raw because it was frozen, or still pretty frozen. So it's not really fair, but